Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Sister Erica Alexander the Great. Thank you, Sister. Look, I was doing my research on you. I'm a 1969 baby. When I saw you was 69, I knew why. I knew why we was in love with you going through college. We couldn't wait to see y'all. What? Good to
Crazy.
see you. Thank you.
Good
Look,
to see you too, brother.
look, and then we had Sister Dreesen Heath, who works with the reparations stuff, and we do a bunch of little activities around this HR 40. And she was talking, when I told her we had you on here, she's like, what? And then I had missed your podcast. I had missed the big payback, the
The
big
big
pay
pay,
black.
the big pay.
What? I was like, so I'm like getting you. You've been, and then you're about to do a documentary on reparations. I'm like literally, I was very narrow. It's the Black Blockchain Summit, the NFTs, and we got it. But when I saw the expanded body of work, again, I'm eating into the time, but sis, I really want to prioritize this moment we have with you based on you, not based on the summit, because I don't, whatever you say or whatever topic you're doing, our literal theme is reparations and revolutions, literally.
I
So
know.
so humbly, you're doing reparations and you've been revolutionary. Day one, 1969, baby. That's what we do. That's what we do. Gen X, what? Exactly. We look
Yeah.
through crack cocaine, through AIDS. Now
True.
they done thrown the damn plague on us.
Wars,
Like
all these wars,
all these wars, the Great Recession. Like they
Great
don't talk about our
Recession.
generation. Look, they don't talk like we've been through it, and no one. There's no trophy. Where's the trophy? There's no
First
trophies.
presidents, things like that.
And
Absolutely.
then we make it right. After you 69. Was it November? I looked it up. I'm not gonna put your business, but God bless. My wife was born November 18th. So you're like 17 or 19
I'm
or something.
19.
Nice, you right after her. So God bless you, sister. What do we want to talk about? We all know who you are. You've been in our living rooms. Look, we saw movies, everything you do. We about that life. And thank you, Sister Deirdre, for just making this connection. And then your assistant, my people Pruitt's, like there was a lot of like multi-layers. I like just had to happen. Anyway, I digress.
You are so funny. Well, thank you, number one, for inviting me on. And how is the summit going, by the way?
Awesome. The only thing that was a little disheartening was that we had to go virtual. And this is our fourth year. And the only thing that made this probably different was that
Yeah.
Black folks were able to come together and see each other and touch. So you know how we are, like that energy of having us all in a room where you might have been a nerd or you might
Yeah.
have been somebody who thought you were crazy. And there was
Yeah.
all these other cuckoo birds with you that can relate to you. Like it was so therapeutic. Like really, it was like therapy. And then to
Right.
not have it this year, we thought we were going to do hybrid. And then Howard was definitely being very vigilant with their freshman students. So they then said, look, we said, look, we don't want to get people sick. We want to get to 5. We want to have our 5th annual Black Blockchain Summit. So we don't want to have a whole bunch of mass spreading situations. So, but you
No, that's
coming,
fun.
you coming though has made this a highlight. They're going to remember the 4th one. Sister Erica Alexander the Great was there, period, full stop. And she working it humbly. Thank you.
Well, I love that the title is Reparation and Revolution. Obviously, I'm down with the revolution, born down with the revolution if I'm a 69 baby. Oh, yeah. And I appreciate the 69 because I thought I was the only one who really dug being from 1969. Yeah, I love that year. I find that a lot of people who are my peers who are about those years have accomplished a lot, and they seem to be multi-layered and multifaceted and multi-skilled, because you're right, because of all of the things you mentioned, including, you know, we have better ear palettes than anyone else. It's not surprising. So many of those RZA, all these people created all sorts of really cool music. Latifah, who's a 70s baby just by 3 months. And, a lot of the real independent spirits came from there, but also great empathy, great need for education, self-starters, self-taught, and have seen a few things. So if they've survived it now, they really are usually about teaching and trying to spread legacy, not just for self, but for building and trying to put back. So I love that. And congratulations on the reparations. So I've been doing this reparations documentary since Juneteenth 2019, when HR 40 went and was had its first testimony on the Senate, sorry, the House floor with Sheila Jackson Lee. And while we were doing it, a story came in about Robin Rue Simmons of Evanston, Illinois, who had passed the first reparations bill in American history with a mostly white council. She was an alderwoman of the Fifth Ward. So we started to include her story, and we filmed all the way through COVID, which became monumental, not just because of the passing of the great John Lewis, but of George Floyd, the election, then going into the insurrection and all the stuff that happened. Reparations really came to the fore. COVID obviously started to point out the real disparities and problems that everybody kept saying. These essential workers, like they were like, oh, they're essential now, but y'all don't care about them once you get back up on your feet. No, you're not paying them a living wage. You're not doing any of these things, and those are the disparities and equities that are built into the system. Wages, tipped wages, people making $2.13. I'm on the board of One Fair Wage. And one of the things that we're working toward is to get rid of that thing from slavery that was brought over by the British system. They outlawed it when they had all these free slaves. They kept us on a tip, just tipped money, not even wages. Then they actually codified it and put it $2.13. So a lot of these restaurant workers and people you tip make $2.13 an hour, and tips, and that's if you tip them. And there's so many things built into to make people stay in poverty, not be able to take care of their families, but also treat them as third class citizens. And that's one thing. So that's part of reparations. But the big reparations thing is obviously whether America will atone and repair for its great sin. And it has not yet. We don't have an official apology for slavery. We don't have any of those things. And do it and figure out how to do it. If they can write these big checks for um, infrastructure and all this other stuff, they can definitely give us trillions of dollars, as far as I'm concerned, for reparations, especially over time in education and all the other things that they owe us because we built this joint. I love Black people. There you go.
So humbly and thank you first of all. And I even I hadn't known anything about that the tip part and how and where it came from. So I was listening to somebody preparing for this fireside. So you're the way the narrative of your podcast is very helpful to get people into it, as well as very educational. It's not just like a bunch of clickbait pieces. It definitely was very helpful. I think our audience is very diverse. So even with I Love Black People, it's over 100,000 folks, but about 70% of them are in outside the United States. And one of the things we see in Africa is well, let me say contextually, that for Nazi Germany, they had a Nuremberg trial. There was an accountants for all the wicked things done to our Jewish brothers and sisters. But there's never been account for what was done with colonialism. It's almost like not a non-stated thing about, oh, maybe this was better. No, it wasn't. They just, communities were destroyed. Before we even came over here, we came from great communities. We had farms, we had the industry, got over here, and now we're up here, picking somebody's cotton. I think there's a context of reparations, a context of holding people accountable so that they can't keep hurting us and make it seem like no one went to prison for colonialism, like full stop. Like there's African leaders are going to prison now for corruption, blah, blah, but the corruption of colonialism, not one European colonizer ever went to, not one plantation owner went to, like there's a theme of how that behavior still is not criminalized. But if you look at how anti-Semitism related to like the Nuremberg trial, the treatment of Jewish, it's clear. So and I'm not trying to get into a weird conversation, but I'm just saying we need to be, I think when you push and make points of beyond just the cash payment, I do want them to cut my check, but beyond that, how we create a climate where it's like, it's okay to harm us, because if you just wait some time, it'll go away. No, it won't go away, and we need to repair it. And for you to use your platforms and your artistry, when we don't, I mean, HR 40 is actually on the floor. All we need is one more vote, and we still don't hear about that one more vote as much as some of these other things. What else are you working on? And like, again, I want to do NFTs, but when I saw you had so much of this, because many of our followers are in tech, but they don't have necessarily always the historical context. you're in art, but you bring all of that into a whole world view. It'd be great to make sure we get that in, because then we definitely want NFTs, concrete. We want all that, but we definitely want to see your body of work, please.
Oh, well, thank you. And I just have to say a little something about what you're talking about, because that capitalist system you're talking about that they hold up, white people did not want African Americans free or not to own anything. So they did a really good job of preventing the advancement or any implementation of any bill to help them or anything to help them. And that included instituting Jim Crow laws, as we know, white supremacy, terrorism, all that stuff, lynching, all the stealing they did. That destroyed the advancement of Black people for decades. And that's why we know the Great Migration took off and that everybody went to the North looking for more of a fair deal. They didn't get one. I mean, they were trying to get out under the immoral white boot that was targeting and destroying and oppressing the former slave people. They gave slave reparations to the former slaveholders, famously. And it's a disgusting thing to look and see people like I think it was that chef Paula, what you call it, crying about what happened to her grandfather when slavery was over, and he sat up there and then he blew his brains out. I mean, whatever she was talking about, and she lost her show for it because it revealed her to be a sympathizer. It wasn't just about her family; that she really thought that those slaves leaving destroyed her family, and that we should see them as victims. And I think if there's a program of reparations, one of the biggest programs is to reform or look into the psychological aspects of white supremacy and how it is an illness, like James Baldwin said. And there needs to be reparations for Black people on a mental level, but for white folks, they have no idea that they're ill, that they've been raised in a sick system. So they think they're doing fine, but that's why they're able to perpetrate it upon all sorts of different new generations. So anyway, we didn't come to talk about that, but since
No, 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 but that, it's definitely a part, because I think the transition, because the tools that we use could be technical tools. There's all kind of tools, and the
yes,
fact that you're utilizing a particular tool, even in the artistry, I saw you we got a little glimpse of you and Get Out. Again, we go back to Living Single for our generation, because you were iconic for us. You validated that, those of us who are professionals or trying to be professionals, you gave face to us. I think some of these images are less now than we had then. And I think there's a struggle. Like, people don't give Living Single credit for being the precursor to Friends. Like, people talk about Friends, like Friends was the first group of friends, when the first group of friends were our friends with Living Single. Like, when I'm the reason I'm bringing it to that, because it is an industry that you came of age in, and this is what you've been doing, and it's racist as hell. So I'm just trying to get a feel of you navigating that the ability to use NFTs to make sure you get access to your rights. What is some of that particularly done? We had a brother from Sounds of Blackness, and Gary Hines. He just came with a song about reparations, and he's been in the music industry for like decades. So them trying to be able to secure their rights, and how do you see that as an artist and the struggle we've had since we've been alive in this space? Like this, because they'll often talk about the 40s and the 60s. You have a legitimate, like, our generation has had we were the first generation that came of age with that promise that they're going to change something, and they reneged on. Like, our parents grew up in a segregated world. We grew up in one that experimented with our integration. And my brothers, it was in and out of prison. I mean, the things they did to us and then blamed us. Like, we were the victim and the villain in every movie. Like, how do you get to be the villain and the victim? At least the villain gets to say, ha, 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 ha. We got to be the loser and the loser. I was like, so how, with the art, how do you see the things that you struggled with, and some of the things that aren't talked about, like some of the things that you experienced in this industry? And again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I want you to reveal the things that feel comfortable, but I'm saying there's some unique things in the era that you were in, developing in, that there were some racist things that were very problematic, and how did you cope with them, and how do we leverage some of the things you're doing now as to inform the you that was you back then?
Well, there's so many things that are in that one question that there's no time. There should be a whole series about it. But the industry of entertainment is one of the most corrupt and toxic industries to work in. It has famously been something that has lifted us up and given us sort of, you know, prominence, things like that, but has at the same time taken our generational wealth away from us, um, and leveraged on the unseen force of white supremacy and, racist and biased and prejudiced systems to um, to own us in different ways. And so you can go in the system and think, oh, I'm doing well. Oh my God, you're famous. You got your song on the radio. You got all these other things. And then you find out that none of these people owned anything. They known themselves. They known their names. Prince famously, slave. We're trying to try to tell us something. And all the systemic things that happen inside of showbiz, and not just showbiz, but just inside of the regular communities, is so much more noticeable. As we look at people like Michael Williams, rest his soul, Whitney Houston, um, Marvin Gaye, all these people who unfortunately their lives were cut short by drug use, um, stress. You see people dying of young of old age. You got DMX, all these people out here who just Biz Markie, famously unhealthy. We are unhealthy in our own communities. I don't know why anybody think it would be different there, but it should be, because I think communities and nations that cannot protect their most vulnerable populations, which are definitely women and children and artists, creators, people who put themselves in the space and show us a different version of how to be human, is on its way to failure. Like we are
Yeah,
watching the destruction of United States, because you can see if its best and brightest creators who hold us accountable, who make us feel and move, cannot be saved or are in a crisis and urgency, and no one says so. That's what's happening. So I'm saying that there are things that I grew up with that I believe that because of my background and because of my training, I didn't get caught up in. But it's not because but I feel like that was just an exception, not the rule. And and if you were in '69, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where you walk through neighborhoods where you could just get shot in the ass and it wasn't no thing. Drive-bys, all the stuff that were happening, all the drugs that they pushed into the communities, all the policing, all the abject. It was just awful, and yet we did survive. So how did I survive it? Well, it was really fantastic to have mentors and people who I acted with and who I performed with, who were about the mind. They were about training your mind more than anything. Not staying out, truly not hanging out, was really smart. People say, "We never see you, Eric." I said, "Well, I was never a hanger outer, but it really kept me from creating bad habits and also getting my sleep." People say, "Oh, you look so young." I said, "Well, I am my age, but I tell you one thing, I didn't do half the things my peers did. They're exhausted. They're exhausted with stress. They're exhausted with all sorts of things that they did to their body to manufacture the entertainment you see." And then also, if I think about the entertainment business and how psychologically damaging it is and distressing to hear that no matter what you do or how good you are, it won't push you into the next level, that people won't take you seriously inside of these management companies and these agencies, and you'll be shut out of different opportunities, not because again your level of skill set and talent, is because you're not inside of something that they've decided whoever's in there are the people who get all the opportunities, and everybody outside has to fight for them. Chadwick Boseman and I were in the same agency, Green Agency. The reason why Chadwick was there, it's because he couldn't get representation anywhere else. And not that Green is a bad agency; it's a really wonderful boutique management, boutique agency. But the fact that he couldn't get any representation or anybody to take them seriously meant that he had to work outside the system of these huge agencies that own everything, and they manipulate their ownership of all the key people. And there's not that many people up in there to shut everybody else out. And you're lucky to get a supporting role. But then when he became a big star, he said, I'm not moving to another agency, even though I'm being um, courted. He said, y'all didn't want me, so I'm gonna build my um, career from here. And because he didn't want to abandon this Jewish man who said, I think you're great. Um, I'm going to manage and your career as an agent, and we're going to build on something. That was huge. Tessa Thompson was there at the time. All these people were there, and people don't know that this exists. And then they look at us and say, "Well, why don't you have black management? Why don't you have black agencies?" There was nobody there. And the people who were the black agents from Charles King and all, they were all in the big agencies, CAA and Endeavor and all that. And you know, people act like it's us. I said, look, many of these people who so-called took a risk or chance on me, I appreciate it and I think I was talented, but wasn't no room at the end. This was what was offered. And so if you look and I say, why don't you build the management and or agent that you know that you say should exist? And then why don't you work to get those relationships so we can get the opportunities that you say we should have and that you're able to get? But people don't know that there's multi-layered things that are happening all the time to hold people down. And you can see it in this world easily. But I say it really mimics what you're if you're experiencing it wherever you are, it's the same thing there. It's just more blatant and we can see it because it's more grotesque. So I think there should be studies and data analysis about it. And we should get into Congress and we talk about the monopolies and holding people back and find ways to support new players in that system, new executives, and hold people accountable. The studios, all of that, who just now nominated more Black people than ever in the Emmys, and none of them won the major awards. So there you go. It's still work. It's still a thing. So anyway, there you go.
So this is amazing, of course. Is there an application, and I'm not asking you for the solution, but with the technologists and the folks who care about Black folks who follow Black Blockchain Summit, do you see, like, because I always give, so, with our application, we're doing a green book. A lot of people think that was a Black business directly, but it was actually Black friendly too. So it was about not dying and getting killed. So it could be a Mongolian doctor in Copenhagen. Is she going to treat you with dignity and respect? That's my doctor. With that being said, it's the same type of thing with trying to figure out how do we solve this problem with like Uber. People don't talk about it. The people who came up with Uber did not care about racism. But one of the most racist times as a 69 baby was literally trying to catch a cat. Literally,
Oh,
when they kept,
I overstand. He
right.
passed
So,
by too.
right. So my point is, literally, again, the people who came up with Lyft and rideshare innovation were not thinking about us, but it literally made that type of racism obsolete by and large. Are cabs still racist? I don't know. I don't even take them. I know I get Uber. So God bless them if they're not. They're just obsolete. They can't hurt me no more. Is there something, or because you did allude to there needs to be some analysis, are there any things that you see in the industry? Because NFT is a space and we're still experimenting with that really. It's really early technology. Is there anything else you see that could be made obsolete because it's that much better, that could be that much better than the system that's depending on these people who are gatekeepers? Or is that so weird of a question? You need some time.
Is there any system? There all systems could be overhauled and destroyed and rebuilt. Every system.
Go ahead.
Monique talked about the algorithms within the streaming service that she said were racist, that had not made an account, a true account of her viability and the market and the audience that she had built over decades. And that is a form of um, salary and paycheck inequity. When Lilly Ledbetter, who they signed the Lilly Ledbetter
Right,
Act,
right,
Obama's first bill, that act that he signed when he got there. We got there. It got there because many female Congress people, and my girl Hillary Clinton made sure it was on his desk because they had been pushing it forward all that time, and he was the first thing he signed. Lily Ledbetter was talking about being held back by this invisible thing that she couldn't get a raise or anything. It was all based on some sort of, again, whatever machinations they were doing behind. Well, that happens all the time. The people literally say, um, if you're black, they've they've devalued you in these algorithms. These algorithms are made by people,
Go
humans,
ahead. Go ahead.
and so they have the same flaws as their human maker. It's like a Frankenstein monster. People think the monster is Frankenstein. No, Frankenstein is the monster. Monster that it
Teach.
is that's his creation.
Wow. I never made. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go
Right.
ahead. Okay.
And he comes like a Dybbuk to come and bring revenge upon the doctor who created him, who brought him back from the dead to suffer. And he's mad. That's the monster. Dr. Frankenstein is Frankenstein. And we ask ourselves about these systems. We need to talk about who built them and the types of inequities that are built into the system. And so we should have rallied around that. We should have talked about that, because if you talk about NFTs and these things that are in tech, if we bring our prejudices and bias inside of the system that we're trying to change things with, then we've just recreated the same thing that we're dealing with out here. So I say that all these things need to be addressed. I created Color Farm Media, frankly, so I could have a different conversation about it. It's a 21st century entertainment, innovation, and social impact company. We call ourselves the Motown of film, television, and tech. And we wanted to leverage our production skill set and our network to build and shape content through our activism, and through and build a better tomorrow that way.
So how can we support that? So again, like you mentioned Charles King. Charles King, my frat brother. We both went to Howard together. Now, even though
Great.
he went to Vanderbilt. So
Macro. Great.
Macro. So when you just said it made me think about macro. What can we do to be supportive of your studio? Like what? All these folks listening, we got different professionals, literally from Kampala, Uganda to Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica to Chicago, United States. What do these brothers and sisters do to support amazing people like you doing big projects? Like, what can we do better? And then we're going to definitely hit the NFT. But what this project, like, what can we do? We just had a brother that was talking about his book, and he was talking about bars to Bitcoin. And I was like, what can you do? He was talking to, look, he wants to get the book into the prison system so they can read it. We have access to people like in these different government agencies to get the book in there. What can we're not famous, but we sister, we down, like we've been watching you, sister, for a while. Like we know, like we in our minds back, like we was waiting on Thursday. Like that was our life. Like sister, like really, like anyway, I digress. What can we do to be helpful?
Share content, rate it. You mentioned the reparations podcast. Go and intentionally listen and rate it, and then do a review. Tell a friend. Go to Color Farm Media and sign up, and so we can keep our list, our email list, which is valuable. All these people are building all sorts of great, huge audiences on these really unique, innovative platforms, but you don't own them. If they want to take your entire Instagram crowd and just say you start from zero, and suddenly something you built for 10 years on a platform is gone, and you have no way to get back to that audience. And we're finding people who are saying that's wrong. That if you've helped build something and they're leveraging their ad content and the advertising dollars on it, then why don't you own it? But you don't. So you got to build your own network so you can find your people and tell them what you're up to so they can amplify. Again, amplify. People talk about Color Farm Media and it's in the zeitgeist, and they start to write about it and say Color Farm Media, Color Farm Media. It pushes it up. So there's a lot of these things in the algorithm. You're not important unless you're seen. So we need to help people see these companies. And
Colorform Media. Now, everybody, we got to go ahead and get on there and get on the email list. Farm Media, Farm Media, Farm Media. I think it's supposed to be 7 times, but Farm Media, Farm Media, Farm Media.
yes, there you go. Thank you. That
Okay.
and then also they can remember us if they have something great happening, that we are a production company too. Right now we're looking for funding. All these production companies are underfunded, but we are famously underfunded. We do a lot of things project by project, and people may get frustrated like, well, I sent something and I said, well, we're finding funding, but don't think we don't see you. We're actually out there doing educational workshops. We did a 10-city tour when we first debuted, and we went to Philly and Chicago and Raleigh and Atlanta and Compton, and we invited people in and we said, we see you. It was a tour called Keep It Colorful, and we did it with a platform called Seed and Spark. And we taught people how to crowdfund and build networks. And thousands of people came out for this
Go ahead.
information.
Go ahead.
We were in Compton. Mayor Aja Brown gave us use of the community center, and over 700 people showed up. Grandmamas with their composition books, being pushed in by wheelchairs, and their grandsons, and the chains talking about, Miss Erica, I got a story to tell. I'm like, I know you do. We're trying to teach people how they can build for themselves and not feel frustrated that their stories and their projects die with them, and they die of encouragement. People, oh, you're great, but then they don't show them a way to move forward. And for everybody who says you should do it yourself, we don't need those people. What do they think people have been doing all this time? Themselves.
Fails.
Yeah.
No,
They but
yeah, no. I
but
learned that hyper growth
the
companies where
power
you
to
can.
amplify. You
Right. The scale. You want to scale. That's what you
want to
don't want to stay small. Ain't nobody want to be small business. We all want to be big. Like, look, small. What? I want to be big. So getting
yeah.
access to funds. Again, I think
Reverend Barber
leveraging.
say that Black people are underfunded capitalists.
Go
We ain't
ahead.
so we're underfunded
I'm gun
capitalists.
capitalism. Now
We
I'm
do
picking up what you're putting
everything in
down.
the middle of a living room, pressing hair and doing all these other things, catering business, all the stuff. And they talk about do it yourself. We need to stop saying that and say how we can get people who have worked hard and who have a business model and need to scale the funds they need to dominate.
Here,
Let's do
here.
that. Because there is a way to do that. Maybe if we pool all our money and say, what could we do if we all gave to a fund $100 a month? And out of that fund, we could build leverage and monies for candidates and people that we'd like, and executives and
But I think that I like the way you're saying it now.
entrepreneurs.
I
I'll do
think
it.
no, I'm saying your projects, and I've seen this with Tariq Nasheed with Hidden Colors and him crowdsourcing. Like I think you having a project, and again, I'm not saying it has to be a cryptocurrency one, but literally, showcasing, and I'm sure you've done it. So I don't want to be one of those other smart folks. I used to have dry cleaners. People just come in. Well, you need to do it like this, man. Just shut up and give me I mean, like literally, they would always give you advice. But I think even the projects you're working on that can be
Yeah.
easily elevated. Are there anything that you're working on now that you might be getting funding for in a crowdsourced way? Like again, when I heard that reparations project, I thought that was super amazing. Are there ways that folks can directly support those things financially?
No, there isn't, because I'm not crowdfunding right now. It's hard
Okay,
to keep running in place and moving forward.
right.
But it's something I've thought about. I've been trying to build from resources that I know are there, and maybe that's a faulty thing.
No,
At
that's
the
real.
point I
That's
may
real.
be crowdfunding. I'm trying not to. I don't want people to say, well, "Why is she crowdfunding? She should have this and that." Well, if you see me crowdfunding, it's because I don't have access to those resources, but I still need to get this project. But what you see with Concrete Park, let's get to that.
Yes, ma'am.
Concrete Park NFT bangers, the NFTs, is something we did on our own. So near the end of the 90s, after living single, I had married a writer named Tony Puryear. Tony Puryear is the first African American to write a movie that made over $100 million. And he wrote Eraser. And we were trying to do a, a science fiction series. And we went around to everybody. And because Tony had a background in advertising and visual, we had a really great presentation, and we could talk about it, and people get excited. They'd see all these brown and black faces in the future, and they say, oh my God. And We talk about what we want to do, but no one would bite. Went on for many years, and we tried to get meetings with executives and who had power, and we got in a meeting with an executive who was president of a very lucrative studio that was known for doing movies with black people or niche content and being successful. And we start to pitch, and he stops us in the middle of our pitch and says, "Let me stop you right now." He says, "Black people don't like science fiction because they don't see themselves in the future." That's a quote. And we looked at
Forget
him,
him.
and he told us this story that he made him come to this conclusion, which was absurd and stupid. And Tony, who's very, very light skinned, people don't know that he's black, but he's Malcolm and Martin, all in one, said, "Let me stop you right there." He said, "For black people, the past is painful, the present precarious, but the future is free." He said, "We
Correct.
always create in the future because y'all took our past away from us, took our names, didn't give us anything. You haunt us in our present so that we are the original futurists of America. Because the now that you're living in right now is because a black person made it." So
Ooh.
he said, "We're the people that you brought from across the ocean to rock your world and make your planet strong." And dude didn't like hearing that, so he started pushing our stuff all around. Oh, but also Tony said, um, and by the way, you may not know about Octavia Butler, a great science fiction writer, or Samuel Delaney, a great science fiction writer, but you do know that Will Smith is the number one science fiction star in the world.
Go
And
ahead.
that, nobody could dispute that. Independence Day, Men in Black, all this. But this man had the temerity to set up in our faces, two black people, and tell us what we were capable of liking and why we would be unsuccessful. He certainly didn't get a load of Parliament Funkadelic, James Brown, any of these things, the future
Right, right,
freakiness of Louis
right,
Armstrong, ragtime, the
right,
blues,
right.
rock and roll. We told him all these things was his. Black people built that,
The
and
mothership. What are you talking about?
mothership, baby, come on with it. And so he started pushing our stuff around, acting like he didn't like it, and said, "Well," Tony said, "Well, now you calling my baby ugly." He stood up and said, "Come on, Erica, let's go." We walked out of the office. We were walking through the atrium of this studio, and he said, "Ah, fuck it, I'll draw it." And so he taught himself after 50 how to draw and illustrate comics. He sent a few of those panels to Mike Richardson. Mike Richardson is the person who created Dark Horse Comics. Dark Horse does Hellboy, Sin City, 300. He took one look at him and said, "I'd love to publish y'all." By the end of the year, we published our first um, uh, imprint, our first issue of Concrete Park. Um, and then within that year, we were a Best American Comic. And then Forbes said later on that we were one of the best graphic novels in America. Now, this is before Black Panther started to do its thing,
Go
and
ahead.
a thing that had been planted seeds long ago by Jack King Kirby and Stan Lee suddenly comes after many iterations from the great Christopher Priest and Rachel Hudlin. It becomes, this thing, and we get a movie version. But there we are.
Thanks for saying that. Thanks for saying those names. Even though I don't know, like we gotta say their names. We gotta say their name. And I really, every time you keep doing that, just like I can feel the answers. Like when you're doing that, that is okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we got to know who we owe our future to and our present, and people who are out there, as you say, who need to be supported and amplified. And they helped us. So we were going around with this new comic book. They were looking at us with the stink eye, like, what are these Hollywood people doing there? But they saw us show up over and over again at these Comic Cons in the basement with them in Artist Alley and be humble and be humbled. Nobody at our table for 3 days. We pack up our stuff, not sold a thing, but come back. And then after a while, you get one or two people saying, "What's that?" Black and white kids saying, "Oh, I like this," and then suddenly showing up as the characters. You build on that, but it took years and years when I wasn't working that much in Hollywood, and went bankrupt and all these other things. I was building. So when people say, "What have you built yourself?" Concrete Park is what we built. We built that with what we knew two people could do it yourself as a proof of concept of an idea that we could not get any traction with in Hollywood. And here's the setup for Concrete Park, just so people know. It's a vision of the future. What if Earth sent its poor, its underclass, its youth off to another planet? Would they recreate the tribalism, the racism, and the hatred and the violence, or would they make something new? And we said that they were going to make something new, and that
Go
would be
ahead.
Concrete Park. And what you see with the NFTs now, and we sold out of all our comic books, the first and second print. We did 2 volumes of the graphic novel, and then we started look. Then the whole comic book market collapsed. Nobody was buying comic books. All the comic book stores went out of business because of the internet. You make two separate.
Right.
That's right, and then it had to be digital. But digital comic books are what you get them, and you can just give that to anybody else. You're not really selling anything. It was like music. It was easy to replicate, you
Right.
know, and so NFTs come along. What's this? Non fungible tokens. Suddenly we're like, well, what is that? Well, we're all about engagement. We did it our do it yourself thing. Our creative approach is a do it yourself business model. And so we're always looking for new ways to engage with our fans. So the sci-fi series about the future, we see NFTs as the future of getting cool Concrete Park collectibles into the hands of our fans. We met with the people at Curio who does our collection, and they worked with us to create a really great program and um, uh, edition of these collectible items. And then we dropped it. We said to people, collect the future, Concrete Park. And it sold out within a minute.
Praise God.
People who probably had never heard of Concrete Park bought it because they dug the art. Tony, who was, again, taught himself illustration after 50, created those things. And it was resonating with down the line with new players. And
Right.
and the next drop came out, and that sold out within minutes. And the next drop came out, and we sold out completely of all of them. So then Curio comes back and says, let's do another generative art program. People who don't know what about this, they should look it up. But Board Ape Yacht Club are these apes that these uh, tech
I saw
collective.
Cameron Winklevoss was talking about buying them. So
Yeah.
Gemini is one of our sponsors. So Cameron Winklevoss, he came last year. So I saw something about some ape. Now look, I ain't gonna lie, I like Cameron, but we had some with apes. I was like, look, I ain't gonna retweet this yet until I explore the
Yeah.
ape conversation. I'm double checking. I'm just double checking. So what's the ape thing about? Talk about the apes.
Well, the apes are worth millions of dollars, any one of them, hundreds of
Wow.
thousands of dollars, any one of them. And it's a so I mean, every generation I feel goes under a transformation. And what you're seeing is something that the Impressionists or the Cubists or the Surrealists, all these people, they challenge representational art. And now people are challenging the idea of physical art. And for all of those moments, the canvases were in the physical space, right? So, but now digital art and its creators are ascending, and their presence challenges the status quo. So you got Curio, NFTs, and our edition, Concrete Park NFTs. They're the missing link. And I promise you, the future has arrived. But here's the best thing about it. You talk about generational wealth. These things that makes them special in the Board Ape Yacht Club, which people should look up, just these apes that are kind of weird and each one of them is unique and encoded, that if you buy one, it knows you bought it, and it has a ledger that keeps you in the ledger. So the transfer to any one other person goes into that ledger. So it's stuff that you can now prove is the original thing that you bought. Everybody knows that art is about provenance and unique and rarity. Well, that's what makes it rare. The fact that you can have this encoded through this new technology, this crypto technology, is why this thing has taken off. The thing that if people understand baseball cards, they understand it. You keep that baseball card pristine, whatever, you come back and you say, I have this original thing, then it is what it is. Our friends at Curio explain it this way. Rick and Mantry is one of the co-founders, and he said, listen, the Mona Lisa, we know there's only one. We know where it is. We can all go see it. And we line up to see it by the millions all the time. But you have a poster of it over here. And we know that that's just a poster. What do you think's more valuable, the original or the poster? So people say, well, you could just take a Bored Ape and you could just have that Bored Ape. Sure, you could have a digital picture of it, but the real Bored Ape, out of that edition, someone has, and it's proof inside of the encoding that that person has it. So even though you come and say, oh, I want to buy that Bored Ape from you, they say, okay, I'll sell it to you, and that person's name goes in the ledger. When it was sold, where it was sold, the original person. But here's the best part about it. Basquiat and these types of people who sold their art and at the time probably got a lot of money, $10,000, $20,000 for their canvas art. They were never in the cash flow of what that art could do later on. Somebody else would go years later and sell it for $2 million, $20 million. But Basquiat ain't getting none of that. Neither are any of his people, any of his mother's brothers, sisters, or anything. He didn't have any children, but none of them. In this flow, this digital flow, the creator, the original creator, is always in the cash flow, like a residual is coming to them. Any money that's made on the secondary market, they're part of it. It's built into the encryption. So suddenly, you're not outside of it. Suddenly, you're cutting out middlemen who would have taken that money. You're having a one-on-one engagement with the audience, showing them what you want, and they're having a community building thing. In the meantime, you're always within the cash flow. I'm sorry, that's going to change everything.
No, I think that's amazing, because when we first got into smart contracts, we did it with women farmers in Zimbabwe. And the tricky part with contracts, but here's the tricky part. When you're dealing with the physical world, and people talk about like Tether, when they talk about these stable coins tied to a dollar.
Yeah.
Digital blockchain is digital. So it's software. So as long as you stay digital, it's the master of the digital space. But once you leave the digital space to a space that's like real, is that dollar really there? Or did somebody count that dollar twice and said it was one time? Is that barrel of oil, because people used to talk about Venezuela, where they need to digitize and connect it to the barrel of oil. Well, they could count one barrel of oil 8 times. How would you know? And the same thing.
That's a great. They're printing money right now. Let's be real. We don't do the gold standard anymore.
You're right. And look, they found that money for the stimulus. Now they say they can't find it for us, but it showed up.
Thank you. But what did they build that on? They built that on the promissory note of America.
Go ahead.
That's a reputational thing. So yes, it's going to take time for all these cryptocurrencies to settle down, but they've already been adopted in other countries as being real currencies, and inside of this space as being currency. Things are valuable because we say they're valuable. We're not valuable as Black people because people say we're not valuable.
Go ahead. Ooh.
If we start to value ourselves and project our value into our own space, into our own real life, then other people, we're forcing people to see our value. We are valuable. It's a price beyond rubies, an African American. 13% have been the biggest culture makers in world history, not American history, world history. You'd say anything that's had this much cultural significance, that everyone in the world is marching to their tune, rock and roll and hip hop. It didn't happen. The Egyptians.
In spite of what they.
That's real. The diaspora is strong, but the African Americans are the strongest in the diaspora in terms of culture makers, and that's a fact. But we blended in all the things that we lost, that we thought we lost. It's in there: the drums, the samba, all these things you hear us do, the dance, all that
storytelling,
and we took our roots, our new roots, whether it's the echoes of the tribal natives, which are in our music, We were influenced by all those things. We were influenced by the pain and the suffering. We were influenced by Black boy joy, and the creation of not having anything made us build new things from samples and do what we could in the closet. And we did it from the beginning. Orphans like Armstrong built a whole new thing. It's the only thing that America ever did original was jazz. And I'm telling you, who has done that? With all the odds against us. So as far as I'm concerned, we need to get in this space and we need to own it. And you're right, you're asking great questions, and there are going to be questions asked, but we make our value. We say what's valuable in this world, and then it becomes so.
All right. Look, one of our themes is Satoshi's Black. So look, we say only a Black woman would have gave us something this good and been able to share it without having to put her name all over everybody. So we definitely know Satoshi's Black and a Black woman. And they just did an unveiling of a faceless Satoshi in Hungary. Looked like a little white boy. So we're going to have a sister. It's going to be the faceless view of Satoshi Nakamura, and it's going to be a sister faceless. Okay, so we clear.
So I have the original pins. I have the Satoshi's Black, and I have one of the original pins from a few years ago. I love
it. Thank you, sir. Look.
My physical collection.
All right, humbly, your physical. Well, look, how can they reach you? We talked about getting in contact with you. We appreciate you. Look, we appreciate your time, and we're gonna do this our fifth anniversary next year. You know, I know you're gonna be doing bigger and better things. Love to have you come back doing our next one at Howard University. Now we got a fine arts school back going, so I think we definitely need to make some strong connections between because Howard University's engineering department, Dr. Todd Shern, and the former late Dr. Harris, who passed away, really were big with blockchain and making sure we could do this. And now with the School of Fine Arts, we got to make sure that we're making the connection between. Like I didn't even value art. Like what you're saying. Like I used to think people who are artists should go get a job. Like I was that. I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer by profession, right? And my sister literally was pre-med at Howard and waited till graduation weekend to tell my dad she's going to go off to New York for a conservatory. He almost fell out. And literally, we did like an EP of her first little like off Broadway show, the Colored People Museum,
Oh,
and
no. Yeah.
so it was then I realized, and you've already alluded to it, that without the artist, look, I can tell you how much something weighed, I can tell you how many it was, how dense it was, but you're going to be the one that actually captures the moment. Without you, without living single, without your body of work, the people would not have been able to. You've done a better job instead of an engineer telling our story collectively, and we have to control that storytelling. And like you said, protect. When you said protect, you said women, children, and the artists. I mean, that was so heavy. It was
Our
so
most
heavy.
vulnerable. Those are our most vulnerable.
Yeah, when you
Protect
said
them.
that, sister, that's we're gonna do better at that. And look, we're gonna step up. No, no, no. You've been doing your thing. We gotta be better followers. I'm not saying you're a leader, but we always talk about leading. And
Mhm.
following is helping our leaders, protecting them, making sure they're in the best. I'm not gonna ask. I might ask you some crazy question, but I literally know that you're a high-profile situation. I want to make sure you always looking up. Look, you look amazing without me, in spite of me, probably. But
I
my
know.
point is, we want to make sure you're good. And I think when you said that, protecting, because y'all are vulnerable, because you're out here revealing and sharing so much that would never be, if it's not shared, will not be able to be duplicated again. So I just, truthfully, at least, truthfully, that you truthfully do it. And I just think that's humbly. Thank you, sister. Anyway.
No, thank you. And I appreciate that you say that. There's a lot of people that need to be protected, and we need to support and amplify people like Reverend Barber of the Poor People's Campaign.
Go ahead, show you.
Make sure that we're next door to him. I'm tired of seeing him go to jail. We need to go to jail. And he
Right.
say, no,
North Carolina. Yeah, I know.
sit
Yeah.
that one out, Bishop. We got you. And be ready to fall in line. And Lord knows I don't want to be going to jail, but I'm figuring out how to get down there and help him. And and he's a mentor of mine, and he talks a lot about the third Reconstruction. And here's what he says. He says, we're in the third Reconstruction, Sister Erica. He said the first one famously just after the Civil War ended, 8 years after that. Um, uh, then the one after Martin Luther King's assassination. And he said, here we are in the third Reconstruction. And so if we all understand the third Reconstruction may be the last Reconstruction, then we're the architects of the third Reconstruction. We should take our work very seriously. Wherever you are is where it's at. And we
Go
shouldn't
ahead.
see ourselves outside of the flow because all these things need to work in order to destroy that foundation that was never built on rock and rebuild from the ground up, tear down the systems, hold people accountable, show up, make sure that we're sacrificing in the way that our ancestors sacrificed everything, whether it was Harriet who went back and forth to get people, all these, fantastic generals and warriors, but also take care of ourselves. We have an obligation to stay healthy so we can move forward. And we're dying off on our own with our eating habits and what we're not doing, going to the doctor and having these conversations that are difficult and scary. But yes, by having all sorts of issues, and we're dying disproportionately with this COVID situation. We can't play games with this. We have to make it, and we can't have lose by default. We've never done that.
Go ahead. There you
We're the
go.
13%, and we hold the moral high ground, but we're losing our edge. And so I want to say thank you for all that you're talking about. Let me just quickly tell the people that our drop happens on the September 28th. So you know, we're bringing 7,000 unique NFTs to our fans in the world's first officially licensed generative art NFT project. And it's called Bangers. And I hope people go check it out, tell a friend, buy one. It's
And
going
where
to
did
be,
they go? Where do they go to
they
go
should
check
go,
you out?
thank you. They should go to Curio, Curio.com, on Curio, OnCurio, on Curio.com. They should go to the Curio Twitter, Curio
Yvonne,
NFT.
Yvonne, make sure you get that. Yvonne, make sure you put that in the thing because I didn't write it down, and she's looking at me, looking at you. And if I don't do better, I'm gonna do worse. So,
Yeah,
say it one more
Curio,
time. Say it one more. Say
on Curio, Curio, Curio.com.
Awesome.
And if you miss that, just go to my Instagram and or my Twitter, and you'll see stuff that we're putting out all the time. We're working with this great young branding company named Uba Daima. They're fantastic. Got to give them a shout out. They've done a fantastic job. And obviously the Curio founders, the two who are of color. One's East Indian, the other one's Mexican, and the other one's Jewish, and has he's my partner at Color Farm Media and has a long history of being an
All right,
ally.
we'll call them a black friendly. We coming up with our own designation, black friendly. So we're gonna make
Black
sure
friendly.
we're black friendly. Okay, and
I
it is what it is. Let's keep it
think
100. We're gonna make that a standard. You better be black
please,
friendly.
please. And by the
100%.
way, we're looking for planetary transformation, and not just on this planet, but the ones that are outside ourselves. There are no borders. That's the first thing we need to go. It's a
As long as
global.
we don't colonize them. Every time Elon must about colonizing Mars, I want to fight every colonizer. Every colonizer gotta go. In the ocean, though, we're gonna dump them in the water. Damn Mars. They're gonna go to colonize Mars. I wish you would colonize. Anyway,
Well, let's not colonize, but let's funkify it. You know what I mean?
there you
Let's
go.
make
There you
sure that
go.
we in that system, we in that stream of consciousness.
Here, here,
Because
here,
if they
here.
think that we don't want to be in the future, then that's the beginning of colonization, telling us that that's true, and us
You
going,
know,
that's
No, no,
bull.
I guess it is a joke. Somebody told me, like in Silicon Valley, because I've spent some time, so they are progressive, but they're still racist. They'll talk about us all being in flying saucers in the future, but somehow the black folks will be in the engine room. I was like, look, how are you gonna project segregation into the future? Like literally like hype, like yeah, but and y'all be in the engine room. I'm be in the engine. I'm on the bridge. I'm Captain Kirk. So I'm clear, sister. We're gonna be on the
Yeah,
flying
I'm
saucer.
sure they got all sorts of stereotypes in there. They probably got our Latino Mexican brothers in there swapping the dick. No,
Right, 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 right.
we gonna funkify the future, and you're gonna see all sorts of beautiful things happen. And again, we create our future now. It
Right
doesn't
now, sister.
exist. It's an illusion. It's a hologram. Everything we do now is the future. So let's act like it.
Thank you, sister. And thank you, Sister Erica. Thanks for the love. Humbly, humbly, humbly. 1969 does it again. No. Thank you. Love
Ain't
it.
no stopping us
Stopping us
now.
now. We're on the woo. Thank you.
Look who I got over my shoulder watching me. The great
Right,
John Lewis.
look.
I can't lose. I
No,
can't
no.
lose.
And you did a movie. You did a documentary, right?
That's right. Color Farm Media. That's
Color
during
Farm.
that's our first movie, The Great John Lewis. So if people want to know what we're about, boom, out the box. Know it. John Lewis, Good Trouble.
Good Trouble. There you go. So everybody check that out. Definitely. Color Farms. We got, a lot to do. And it's September 28th. We have the On Curio to get was it 7,000?
Unique generative art, yes, NFT project called Concrete Park Bangers. Go get a banger.
Concrete
Find out
Park.
what
Get a
it's about.
banger.
Start learning about this unique space. If you're an artist, this may be a way that you can build some income for yourself over time because you're in the income stream. This is new. This is groundbreaking. It can free artists up, musical artists, to have a direct connection with their audience. So I'm excited about it.
Awesome. All right, Sister Erica. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you again. Thank you. All right now.